Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 22 of Code Geass R2. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, crazy things happened. Lelouch prevented the Ragnarok connection from happening, and he killed the Emperor before succeeding him and Geassing basically anyone of consequence. So, frankly, I don't know what's going on. I guess he's carrying out an iconoclastic campaign against, the former nobles and things. I was gonna say, where does this leave Schneizel and the Black Knights and all that? And it seems like everyone's surprised that he actually hates Britannia, Or, well, maybe doesn't hate it, but, opposes the Empire. They're all sort of coming to the realization that, whoops, maybe we shouldn't have stabbed this guy in the back, because, yes, he was lying to us, but he was correct about everything else, and he's, making good on all his promises. So, man, I don't know, I feel like the factions would be wise to consider what's going on here and maybe ceasing hostility. Because, it does seem like Lelouch, even as the Emperor of Britannia, okay, he is sort of in line with their goals, but he's also ordering the entire assembly in front of him to become his slaves. So, yeah, I guess he doesn't really need the Black Knights anymore. He has undyingly loyal servants from now on. Oh, there we go. We've got Agent Orange. She's back on side again. So, it seems like Lelouch is just putting any noble who's not bending the knee to the sword, using Jeremiah as his executioner. It is also interesting that he's got C2 with him, because she was sort of instrumental to everything that's happened up until now. Her refusal to go along with the Ragnarok business essentially slammed the brakes on it. So at this point in time, I feel like the big focus is probably Lelouch being the Emperor, and I get the feeling, a lot of people aren't going to take this sitting down. Probably Schneizel and Cornelia, because we do know that Suzaku's like, hey Schneizel, you want to be Emperor? Let's go kill the Emperor. And Schneizel was not opposed to the idea, so I get the feeling that having set out to kill the previous Emperor, I feel like he's gonna not really see anything wrong with killing the new current Emperor. Okay, so now we have Nina here, and I guess she seems to be doing better. A little bit, anyways. It's been a month since the incident at Tokyo. But she really just seems to be throwing herself into her work, whatever that is. Probably building a better bomb. Oh, here we go. Everything's good again. There is now Pizza Hut. I was sort of wondering in the back of my mind when we were next going to see Pizza Hut crop up, because it's been a little while. Oh, wow. It's bad when you have to say, I never thought my nuclear weapon would make me public enemy number 1 in several countries. Good lord. Frankly, that should be the worst of your problem. I feel like her main concern should be that, Lelouch puts her to death for nuking Tokyo, and, a close second should be that just, ordinary people lynch her, and rightfully so. Man. So, it's interesting that Lelouch is as well put together as he is currently, because he did opt to create this world for Nunnally, who is dead, allegedly. I'm personally of the belief that we didn't see a body, therefore she's not dead. Rollo was right nearby her, and he was unharmed by the blast, therefore it seems logical to me that Nunnally's still around, but I don't want to say she's biding her time. I don't think that would be the case. I think something else is going on here. There's going to be a twist, probably at the end of this episode if I had to guess. Although I guess, it does make sense that Lelouch isn't out of the woods yet. All the former Knights of the Round have a real issue to pick with Lelouch being the new emperor, having killed the former emperor and all that. But that said, Lelouch does have Suzaku on his side, and the Lancelot here is better than before, It always seems to be sort of the apex machine, but it seems like it's always being upgraded now and again, so really, I don't think Lelouch has anything to worry about from these guys. Sure, they're sending a big retribution fleet, but Suzaku's killing off the named characters one by one. Now, it is unfortunate that I did kinda like Gino, but I get the feeling he's not long for this world, the poor guy. And I guess there's the lingering question of Anya. She did have Marianne sort of living in her head rent-free, far more literally than that term usually implies, but we didn't really see what happened to her. So I'm wondering, is she back? Is she okay? Because I can't imagine it's fun to have a little roommate in your head, however subconsciously. Now this guy here, the Knight of One, we saw little hints of him having a Geass, but his eye was sort of sewn shut, but this is no longer the case, so I can only imagine that whatever the Geass is, it does something important, and probably something that's going to give Suzaku a fair bit of trouble. Okay, yeah, there we have it, His Geass allows him to see into the future, therefore he can predict what Suzaku's doing, and, despite piloting a inferior nightmare frame, he's able to keep up. Wow, no pressure there, Suzaku. It's very nice for Lelouch to just inform him that, look, we're broadcasting this to the world. Although, I guess Suzaku does have the extra added benefit of his little Geass there bidding him to live. I guess that's, really all it took. Oh. That's interesting, that Lelouch is sort of musing to himself that it's not Suzaku's superior willpower, it's that he's taking advantage of the Geass placed upon him in order to live. I mean, that's kind of reflecting poorly on Suzaku to a degree. I don't think that's exactly a fair statement, but maybe there's some truth to it, who knows? I guess the upshot here is that Suzaku wins, you know? I guess it's time to bend the knee or die. So, Gino's not dead yet. I get the feeling that he probably will bend the knee, however reluctantly. Ooh, so Lelouch is playing a funny game here. As the Emperor of Britannia, he wants to join that Federation of Nations he set up to oppose Britannia. So I guess, This is interesting here. I feel like there's a ploy at play. I'm wondering if this is essentially a ploy to get, like, anyone who would oppose him in the same room so he can, commit a little atrocity as a treat, you know? I wouldn't be surprised at this point, considering his campaign of iconoclasty. Just, you know, destroying the old stuff. I mean, it would kind of serve all the Black Knights right for betraying him unjustly. I mean, he's certainly not above such tactics. And, you know, I mentioned it before, but he does seem a little too hinged considering everything, you know. I mean, without, like, Nunnally here to keep him sort of morally grounded, I would expect him to just kind of go off the rails here. Okay, so the whole thing's taking place at Ashford Academy, and there's like a whole crowd of people here alongside, you know, members of the Black Knights. I can't help but wonder if something's gonna hit the fan, you know? Now, I guess this is interesting. Lelouch is meeting Kellen, and of all the Black Knights, she seems to be the best disposed towards him, considering everything that's happened. Although, unfortunately, Revels isn't taking this very well. You know, it's like, oh, wait a minute, Lelouch, you were the Emperor this entire time? Like, why didn't you tell me? And, look, you know, you can't just share your royal heritage if you're being hunted by the Empire. Although at the same time, I feel like maybe he could have broken the secret to some people at some point. Ooh, Lelouch is being distant. That's probably a bitter pill to swallow for Kellen. Especially because there were like hints of romance and all that, but I guess no longer. So naturally, everyone at this point knows that Lelouch is Zero. You know, he's a very cunning individual, he's got the Geass and all that. Like, naturally they assume he's plotting something, which he likely is. But, I'm wondering if their counterplots to his supposed plots is gonna get them into trouble. I feel like it is, because, you know, maybe if Lelouch isn't necessarily being sincere and meeting up and all that, I feel like they're gonna open hostilities. I mean, Kellen was saying, like, look, I owe a lot to you, you know, you saved me in the Shinjuku ghettos, you founded the Order of the Black Knights, you know, you gave everyone hope when there was none. So, there's gonna be a but here. Okay, well, there is no but she's asking a question, like, why are you teaming up with Suzaku? And I guess the answer is, like, Suzaku's been his friend, and though they are sort of ideologically opposed, they have the same goals. Oh, here's the big question. What do you think of me, Lelouch? I don't know if he's really gonna have an answer. Although, whoa, buddy. Kellen's just going for it. She's making a real bid to be like an imperial consort right there. Although I feel like Lelouch doesn't have much room in his life for women at this point, Wow, okay, back to business as usual, I guess. I suppose that's what happens when you don't get the reaction you're hoping for. So, I guess it's all coming down to a vote then. Like, do we admit the Britannian Empire into the United Nations, essentially? And, just to make the stakes clear, like, look, you gotta have 2/3 of the vote here. So the question is, will they get it? Now, I do find it interesting that they just sort of erect a wall around the Britannian Emperor here. Is it just like a noise-canceling wall so they, Oh, a Geass countermeasure. Okay, well, if we're gonna begin good faith negotiations, what better than to, treat the person who's trying to ally with you as a traitorous backstabber? Although I guess, the powers that be wanted to talk to him privately, so to speak. Ooh, so this is interesting. There's obviously a political issue that voting is proportional to population, and that if the Britannian Empire were to join, they would be the biggest by far and away, and therefore would be able to wield disproportionate power over the Federation. So, understandably, there is some recalcitrance for the current members. Okay, so they're playing hardball with them. Either Lelouch concedes to some of this, or I feel like he could just take him over by force. When he starts asking questions like, what is required to govern the world, then we're treading on dangerous territory here. Because it turns out, you don't merely need dignity to govern the world. What you need is a monopoly on violence. And you enforce that monopoly by putting anyone who disagrees to the sword. So I guess case in point, Lelouch has decided to have Suzaku dive bomb in with the Lancelot to hold everyone hostage. So, man, I guess they were right to suspect him, but they were wrong in assuming he would rely on the Geass. Wow. Okay, so Lelouch was just planning a proper invasion. This sort of reminds me of, like, the little prologue from early in the series that, like, the invasion of Japan took, not very long at all, and it became Area 11 and all that. Oh, that's interesting. That they would proclaim Lelouch to be the enemy of the world. So I guess, that question of what it takes to govern the world, I guess sometimes foreshadowing is fairly brazen. To declare that, like, all you need to govern the world is the resolve to destroy it if need be, then, whoa, buddy, this doesn't bode well for the Assembly here, or for the other countries of the world, for that matter. Man, like, hey, let's resume the voting, says Lelouch. Will Britannia be accepted? Gee, I wonder who would vote no with a big nightmare frame pointing guns at them all. Ooh. Alright, so Nina's holding a box. This is never a good thing. And for her to say to Rivals, like, look, like, get out of here now, otherwise you'll get involved with me. You know, I get the feeling that she's built another bomb. That really does seem to be her forte here. And I guess, unfortunately for the both of them, there are all sorts of roadblocks with armed military and armed citizens. Yeah, things are, I don't want to say they're spiraling, but things are continuing to just progress and get further and further out of control. Ooh. Okay. So I guess Schneisel's using nuclear weapons again. I believe that ship was called the Avalon. Oh no, that's a new ship. Rather nice one. Rather heavily stylized, but for him to have wiped the capital of the Empire off the map, like... Yeah, that's something. Oh, the aerial fortress Damocles. Okay, yeah, that's pretty on the nose, but it is, however, highly effective because it is a sword hanging over everyone's heads. So I guess this is what it comes down to, you know, Schneisel versus Lelouch. And with Schneisel having all his nuclear weapons here, I don't know, things are going to be interesting, I guess. Because I don't think this is necessarily going to devolve into nuclear war, but things are going to get messy. Ooh, messy indeed. Nunnally is alive after all. And I guess Schneisel saying she should be Empress. Fair enough, I suppose, but, you know, I get the feeling she's not doing this of her own will, even if she is declaring herself to be Lelouch's enemy. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.